Introduction to Classical Tibetan, Lesson 6-1, The Source Particles. The particles ne and le are generally used to show the starting point or source of an action. Sometimes they can be used in other ways as well, which we'll cover this week. These particles are both independent, that is, they can be placed after any words and their spelling does not depend on the spelling of the preceding syllable. Generally speaking, these particles can be used to show the origin of something, to make comparisons, or to show exclusion or inclusion. We'll talk about each of these in turn. First, let's talk about the main use of the source particles, to show the origin or source or starting point of things. The source particle can be placed after a word to indicate an origin in place or time. It's also often found in Classical Tibetan when quoting a text. Let's have a look at some examples. Dinle char chungo. The final verb chung means arise. Then we have tin, meaning cloud, marked with the source particle, le. Then there's char, rain. So we could read this sentence literally as from clouds arises rain. Although it might make more sense to say something like rain arises from the clouds. How about this one? Kongyang tenpa di lama le tobo. You already know all of the words in this sentence. Take a moment to try and translate this sentence on your own. Pay attention to the source particle here. This says, he or she also obtained this teaching from the Lama. Do you see how it all fits together? The subject, kong, is followed by yang, meaning also. The main verb is top, obtained. Obtained what? Tenpa di, this teaching. Remember that ten is a verb, teach, while tenpa nominalizes that verb, making it into the noun, teaching. So, he or she obtained this teaching from whom? Lama le, from the Lama. So putting it all together, he or she also obtained this teaching from the Lama. In these cases, the source particle is usually translated as from, or sometimes since. Sometimes the particle le is used to show textual sources. This is very common in classical Tibetan texts. A direct quote usually begins immediately after this particle, and it ends with che, je, or she. There are no quotation marks in Tibetan, so the le particle can serve this function. This usage is fairly formulaic. Usually you'll see the text name followed by le. Then the quote occurs, followed by one of the closing particles and the verb sung, meaning say or teach. In this usage, it's best not to translate le as from. You should instead understand this construction as saying something like, it is said in such and such a text. Or sometimes it's simpler, although less literal, to translate this construction as such and such a text says. It's usually incorrect to translate this construction as from such and such a text. The source particles can also be used to indicate comparisons. When used in this way, ne is never used. Le, or sometimes pe or be, is used. The general structure is a, b, le, adjective, yin. It means a is more whatever adjective than b. Word order is not important here. Let's look at an example. Gompa di kangpa de le chewao. This monastery is bigger than that house. The thing to which something is being compared is marked by the source particle. In this case, the monastery is being compared to the house, so kangpa de is marked by the source particle. We can rearrange the words in this sentence and it has the same meaning. Kangpa de le gongpa di chewao. Notice that the source particle sticks with the thing that is being compared to. So it's still translated as, this monastery is bigger than that house. The third major use of the source particle is to show exclusion or inclusion. In the case of exclusion, les is used and is translated as except for or other than. In this construction, the verb is always negative. For example, kuncho sum le kyap me do. Here, kuncho sum, the 3 joules, is marked by le. So we could translate this as other than the 3 joules. The verb is me. And kyap means refuge. So we can say there is no refuge other than the 3 joules. The source particles can also be used to show inclusion. In these cases, you usually see the construction nang ne. Nang means inside, so when these 2 words are placed together, they make the phrase from among or from within. To use this construction, we could write something like kuncho sum gi nang ne, meaning from among the 3 joules. Notice that you have a connector particle here between kuncho sum and nang ne. This is left untranslated in this case. Those are the 3 main uses of the source particle, but there are a couple of secondary functions as well. Sometimes they can serve to form adverbs. For example, de means beginning, while de ne means primordially or from the beginning. They can also be used to indicate the instrument or reason for something, and can be translated as by, through, because, or since. This is commonly found in Tibetan texts that were translated from Sanskrit. For example, dak itap dile tarpa tobo. The verb top means attain. The subject, dak, is marked by the agentive particle. The object, what was attained, is tarpa, liberation. So far we have I attained liberation. Now we're left with the instrument. How did I attain liberation? Through this method or by this method. So altogether it's I attained liberation by this method. Those are all of the uses of the source particles. To review, source particles can be placed after the words that they modify to show source or origin, to make comparisons, to show exclusion or inclusion, to make adverbs, or to show the instrument or reason for something.